The UK has a new Prime Minister this morning. Sir Keir Starmer is moving into 10 Downing Street. Joining me live is Dr Samuel Power, Senior Lecturer in Politics at the University of Sussex. This is no great surprise, is it?
No, not at all. All of the polls suggested that Keir Starmer was going to win. The exit poll, when it dropped last night, suggested that Keir Starmer was going to win, and indeed, that is what happens. That is what happened. It's a landslide, an expected landslide, that albeit on a slightly less of a share of the vote than we expected. So what that means is that Keir Starmer's efficiency of campaigning has led to this landslide, but with significantly less public enthusiasm than you might expect, just looking at the raw figures.
When you look at people like Boris Johnson, larger than life, big personalities, former Mayor of London, a lot of people knew who he was. Can you pull back the veil on Sir Keir Starmer? Tell us a bit more about who he is.
Yeah, so Sir Keir Starmer, knighted as the Director of Public Prosecutions, which is effectively, the lead lawyer in the country, from a working class background, named Keir after legendary Labour figure Keir Hardie. So just a Labour man through and through, but someone that is in contrast to Boris Johnson, and frankly, I suppose a lot of the Conservative politicians we've seen, a little bit safe, perhaps. Many might say, whisper it, a little bit boring, but perhaps that has been why he has been so successful. He's very much pitched himself as the change candidate, as a sensible return to sensible politics. And on the steps of Downing Street today, he said precisely that. It was almost like the professionals are back in charge, is his pitch to the nation.
It's like the United Kingdom wanted a steady hand. It was interesting because he didn't want Brexit, and now that was a very low tone through this whole campaign, wasn't it?
Yeah, a complete contrast to 2019, the last general election, where Boris Johnson, all he seemed to say was get Brexit done. He had boxing gloves with get Brexit done written on them. He had a wall which he drove a bulldozer through that said get Brexit done on it. Brexit barely came up in this election, and it's not all that surprising. A natural strong point, if you will, for the Conservatives, much weaker for the Labour Party because they're very much split on whether Brexit was a good idea, or whether to accept Brexit or to push back to remain. So very much a part of Keir Starmer's safety-first approach, ahead in the polls, don't mess anything up. To use a football analogy, you're going to get onto the Euros, park the bus. It was almost like just do anything, but don't mention Brexit.
It gets down to bottom line finally, doesn't it? He doesn't have a lot of money to play with. He inherits some difficult things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of typical Keir Starmer in many ways. During the campaign, what he promised was not hope, but frank hope. Okay, not a person, frank hope, just the kind of hope, but not all that much for you to cling on to. And they've been very clear coming into power. Rachel Reeves, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, has said, there's really not all that much money floating around. So it's not going to be a turn the taps on. There's not going to be a big honeymoon period for this new Labour administration. If there's going to be a honeymoon at all, it's going to be a pretty serious business, and they inherit an economy that's on its knees, frankly. So it's a real serious job for Keir Starmer and his team.
Dr Samuel Power, thanks for coming on.
Thank you ever so much.